Welcome into a special bonus episode of Texans on Tap. I'm Brandon Strange, Josh Jordan. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit subscribe. If you're listening, please give us a 5-star rating to help support the show. Josh, we had to jump on because this news is breaking. Charlie will be with us on Monday to break this down and kind of talk about the larger ramifications of this. But I wanted to get your immediate reaction. Aaron Wilson reporting Derek Stingley Jr. has injured his hamstring in practice, may miss several weeks, could possibly be placed on IR. I wanted to talk to you about the short and long-term implications of this. Let's start with the short term. Okay. What does this do to the Texans' defense that was already very porous in the first 2 weeks? What does this mean for them in week 3?
Well, first of all, he's probably going to be replaced by, well, not really probably, it's got to be former Pro Bowler Shaq Griffin. He's going to be the guy that's going to have to pick up the slack coming in here. They've been pretty good as far as pass defense goes. Stingley's been really good. Tavierre Thomas has been fantastic. Steven Nelson. So it's really at safety where they've been hurting. At corner, they've been good. So they're going to take a big hit at corner because not only Derek Stingley's going to be out, but Tavierre Thomas, he has a broken bone in his hand. He's going to miss a couple weeks too. So you're going to be down 2 of those guys. Just Steven Nelson and Shaq Griffin as your main guys coming here going against Jacksonville. And let's talk about them a little bit. They got Calvin Ridley. They've got Christian Kirk. Zay Jones is a little banged up. So they have some wide receivers that can really hurt you, especially with Trevor Lawrence throwing them the ball. So that's going to be a concern here. And just looking at last week, the Texans gave up 31 points to a Colts team with a rookie quarterback making his second start and a backup in Gardner Minshew. So taking this on the road to go face Trevor Lawrence, it's going to be tough sledding. On the positive, Jimmy Ward at safety should be back. So that's a good thing. At least you get Jimmy Ward. He should make his first start of the season for the Texans.
Well, we knew their chances were slim in being able to pull out a win in week 3. They're even slimmer now. But, hey, sets up for an even more miraculous win should they be able to pull one out.
Yep.
Okay, but I want to talk to you about long-term because Nick Caserio has raised a lot of eyebrows with his picks since his very first draft, getting Davis Mills with a 3rd-round pick. He's not afraid to reach for guys. We haven't seen a lot of those reaches pay off necessarily. Last year, he used the 3rd overall pick to draft Derek Stingley. Stingley finishes that season on the IR, as did Dameon Pierce. Meanwhile, the flip side of that, he passes on Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner, as we all know, becomes one of the best performing corners in the league. It's way too early to say that Stingley pick is a bust, but it does look very damning right now, at least in the very short term. How much worse does it possibly mean missing on that pick when you combine that with the fact that they traded additional assets to trade up for Will Anderson Jr., and then you can kind of consider the potential value of what those picks, that pick this year in particular, means now with the way the Texans are trending?
Yeah, I mean, Stingley's been a good player for you. It's just the injuries, but that's not really an excuse there for Caserio because he had the injury designation before the draft. He had the Liz Frank injury that you had to be worried about a little bit, didn't play a ton in college. And then he comes out and he suffers a leg injury in his first season. And then you see Sauce Gardner, who's an all-pro corner that didn't have those injury red flags. So and I mean, where's Lovie Smith in all this too? Because that's who Caserio was making those decisions with when he was here. But at the end of the day, he's the GM. It really falls on him. And with Stingley, this is really amazing. If he goes on IR and misses the next 4 games, he will have played in 11 of a possible 23 games to start his career. I mean, with the number 3 overall pick, you don't have to roll the dice with an injury guy with the number 3 overall pick. Sauce Gardner was comparable skill-wise, and he didn't have the injury red flag, so that's a concern. And then Kenyon Green, to piggyback on that, the week before the draft, Daniel Jeremiah was hearing that a knee issue could keep him or could cause him to fall out of the first round of the draft. And then the Texans take him at 15 overall. He misses a couple games last year, and he's missed the entire season this year with the shoulder injury. I know it was a knee and this is a shoulder, but just overall, it's guys with injury concerns that you're taking really high in the draft. And it's just guys that are injured, stay injured. That's just kind of a thing you want to avoid if you can.
That does seem like the trajectory. And again, we're not trying to damn anyone for drafting players who get injured. Injuries happen. It's the NFL. Yeah. It's full contact. It's a tough game. But it is something that you have to examine when you're continuing to take risks on guys who do have an injury wrap connected to them. And now this looks really bad because you have 2 years in a row in which Stingley's suffering these soft tissue injuries. It was a hamstring last year that sidelined him. It's a hamstring now that's causing him to miss games. We'll see how long he's out here. We've speculated regarding Caserio that he could be on the hot seat this year, depending on kind of how things play out. What does this do to that conversation should Stingley miss any real form of time here?
I mean, all the critics of Caserio have this now to use whenever they want to. I mean, the facts are the facts. These guys are top picks and they're missing games. But we'll see, because if C.J. Stroud hits, I think a lot of this could be forgiven. And it's looking really good with C.J. Stroud. Will Anderson's looking really good too. But this is the second and third overall pick in the draft. They better look good. Like, come on. That's the highest capital, basically, you can spend on a player. So it goes back to the Davis Mills pick when he made his first pick in the third round as a GM, and you swing on a backup quarterback possibility when there were other parts of the roster that really needed some attention. So it just speaks to, Caserio making some very questionable decisions.
Guys, we'll be back on Monday to break it down even more. Hopefully we're talking about a Texans win on Monday, but we'll be back. We'll have Charlie alongside us, and I'm sure he will have some very interesting thoughts on this as well. Thanks again for supporting us. Make sure you hit subscribe on the channel, hit like on this video if you're watching on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast provider. We'll talk to you next time.